Home sweet home, the Brewers back at Miller Park, and we have interleague baseball tonight in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The American League Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim are here. They start a 3-game series with the Brew Crew tonight. Great to have you with us from Miller Park, and good to be home alongside Bill Schroeder, Brian Anderson. Brewers coming off a very successful road trip. They went 4-2 through Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and then we found out late last night and early this morning that the Brewers have traded a guy who helped them get to the postseason back in 2011, John Axford. I think that was very interesting, very surprising news.
Yeah, but not often do you trade a player like a John Axford to a team in your own division, let alone your arch rival. But there wasn't a whole lot of in between with John Axford. He was either very good like he was in 2011, or you had the John Axford that had the beginning of the year and lately for the Brewers, but certainly kind of a surprise. Brewers not sure who they're going to get back. I think something has been worked out, but no announcement has been made as to who the Brewers are going to get back for John Axford. But no doubt when he is on, he could be as dominant as any pitcher, but the key to Axford was that curveball, and was very inconsistent over the last couple of years. The Brewers elected to send him off to St. Louis, and maybe a change of scenery will help him out a little bit.
There you see Ron Renneke, Mike Scioscia, and those two very best of friends. They were roommates in the Dodgers organization, and both excited to be matching up against each other in this series here. All right, the Angels. It's been a while since they've been here. Back in 07, played the Brewers back in 02. Some great memories, huh, with the Brewers and the Angels. Greg and Davey will dive in when we continue.
To you by Menards. Save big money on all your home improvement needs at Menards. By Miller Lite, it's not just a good time, it's Miller time. And by Toyota, let's go places. The Angels and Brewers from Miller Park tonight, interleague style. Let's take it back to 1982, one of the greatest memories in Brewer baseball. Cecil Cooper in the ALCS Game 5. with that big hit to deliver Milwaukee its first and only World Series appearance. Pete Ladd delivers the final out to Robin Yount over to Coop. And the Brewers go on to beat the Angels after being down 2 games in the 5-game series. That was the first time they scorched the Angels up until last year on the trade when the Brewers acquired Gene Segura for Zach Greinke. They also got Johnny Helwig and Ariel Pena as well. Zach Greinke ends up not getting the Angels into the playoffs and not re-signing as a free agent as well. So a lot of things not going right for the Angels, Davey, but everything going right for the Brewers, especially with Gene Segura.
Well, certainly that they got a gem when they got Gene Segura. But, you know, like I said, he reminds me of Louis Aparicio, Ozzie Smith, and Omar Vizquel, who Omar is an instructor in their minor league organization. But this young man is legit. He can play. He's got all the tools.
All right, a lot of storylines. That's just one of them between the Angels and the Brewers. Another one, the managers, Ron Renicky and Mike Scioscia, 2 good friends ready to battle it out here in Bricktown on Labor Day weekend. Dan Rocker set to bring you the call next on Fox Sports Wisconsin.
Park, and we're ready for baseball tonight. Willie Peralta leads the Brewers out onto the field. It is a 75-degree night. Had some rain showers earlier today, but the roof is open, and we are set up for a beautiful night for baseball tonight. Mike Scioscia and the Angels returning to Miller Park. I mentioned that the last time the Angels were here was 07. That's when they played the Indians in a series that got snowed out in Cleveland. So they've been here, but they haven't played the Brewers since 2002, which was the year Mike Scioscia and the Halos won the World Series. His lineup brought to you by Piggly Wiggly, J.B. Shuck, Eric Ibar, and Mike Trout. Cole Calhoun, Mark Trumbo, and Hank Conger in the middle of the order, with Luis Jimenez, Grant Green, and Jared Weaver on the mound tonight, playing National League rules in the National League ballpark. And that's the Angels lineup. Rock that will face Willie Peralta.
Yeah, pretty good bounce back start against the Reds his last time out, after giving up 7 earned runs in 8 innings against Cincinnati. Actually 4 1/3 innings, but gave up 1 run in 5 innings, but got a no decision. His pitch count got him that particular night, 103 pitches. And Willie has lost his last 2 decisions. The Brewers Menards defense behind Willie Peralta. Always important to have good, solid infield defense behind him. Scooter Gennett, Gene Segura, very solid up the middle. Martin Maldonado behind home plate. He has been catching Willie Peralta just about all season.
Well, Jonathan Lucroy getting the start at first base once again. Lucroy making his 4th start of his big league career. They've all come this season. And with Maldonado doing the catching as he typically does with Peralta on the mound, Lucroy's bat stays in the lineup. We're ready to go tonight. First pitch on the way to J.B. Shuck, the rookie left fielder who's making a run at a Rookie of the Year in the American League. It's ball 1, and away we go tonight with Peralta against Jared Weaver. First of a 3-game series against the disappointing Angels. Probably the best way to put it. And a lot of the same adjectives you use to describe the Angels you hear about the Brewers as well this season. Jim Wolf will call the balls and strikes. The crew chief is Jim Joyce. He's out at second base.
Yeah, really nothing has gone well for the Angels this year. Injuries have been a problem. Their pitching has not been very good. They're around the middle of the pack offensively in the American League. They don't hit many home runs, and the Angels were expected to bang with the best of them as far as scoring runs. It just hasn't happened with Josh Hamilton, Albert Pujols, guys like that. They just have not been able to score enough runs.
Noticeably absent from the lineup, Pujols and Josh Hamilton. Hamilton is active, but he has a sore shoulder on his throwing arm, his left shoulder, so he's not playing tonight, although he's been used as the designated hitter over the last few days, but not in the starting lineup, available to pinch hit. And Albert Pujols is out for the season with a foot injury. So two big chunks of their payroll not only underproducing but not available in a starting role tonight. Of course, Pujols, they'll have to catch him up next year. So a lot of guys in the Angels lineup that are not household names by any stretch. They have 4 rookies in their starting 9. J.B. Shuck is one of them. He's having a terrific year, hitting .296. Scooter Gennett waits back, and a close play at first. Shuck is retired. Well, we got the crowd revved up before the ball game tonight as a number of the Green Bay Packers were here, and Jermichael Finley threw out the first pitch, and I'm guessing he spiked the fastball right there.
Yeah, thought it was a touchdown, right? You saw Joe Crawford. He got out of there. He pulled the chute.
I don't blame him.
I heard that music as we were going on the air for our open. I thought we were at Lambeau Field.
There's some big boys down there today getting ready for that first pitch. And all the tight ends were here from the Green Bay Packers. Eric Ibar out to short. Bounces to Segura. And that is ironic, as Ibar was one of the reasons why Segura was made expendable by the Angels. And, feeling like they had shortstop covered. They needed a pitcher, a frontline pitcher, and they made the deal for Zach Greinke. And the rest is history, at least a one-year history that it can be, because Segura is having a terrific year, an all-star season.
And who would have known, when the trade was made back last year, that Segura would be the player that he's been. And he's only one of 3 guys that the Brewers think might have a chance to have a pretty good big league career.
Well, Mike Trout is now the centerpiece of this offense, especially on nights when Hamilton is not available, and Trout has been anyway. Rookie of the Year last year in the American League. Finished second in the MVP voting to Miguel Cabrera. And if you go to the metric evaluation, get into some of the deeper metrics, many feel that Trout should have been the most valuable player, but Cabrera won the Triple Crown and took home the award. And Trout has backed it up this year. .331 hitter, 23 home runs, 81 driven in. A dangerous weapon on the bases as well, and one of the game's great center fielders defensively, as Peralta deals him strike 1.
Yeah, the numbers he's been able to put up this year, you would think are, would be close to MVP numbers, but that's not going to happen this year with some of the guys that are putting together years in the American League. Miguel Cabrera, Chris Davis.
Now, these are great matchups here. You got the young Peralta, who He's trying to establish himself in his first year in the big leagues. He has great stuff, ace-like ability against a young talent like Mike Trout, one of the new faces of the game in Major League Baseball. And I know these are the kind of matchups that Ron Roenicke and Rick Kranitz look forward to seeing, and seeing how Peralta deals with some of the best hitters in the game. 3-2 pitch, another fastball, and it misses outside, ball 4.
I mean, he walks a lot too. That's one thing that people don't talk a lot about. I mean, he walks. He leads the American League in walks. 81st walk for Trout, and he can steal bases. 29 out of 33 stolen base attempts for Trout.
Not much he can't do on a baseball field. So a base runner for Peralta with 2 away, and here comes Cole Calhoun. Gets the start in right field tonight. Peralta deals another fastball, and it's in there for a strike.
Yeah, a bit of a break for Willie Peralta. No Josh Hamilton in the lineup, but you know, Calhoun, a young player, not too many experiences with this guy in the big league level. We was not sure about him.
Now the Angels coming off a series win against the contending Tampa Bay Rays. Took 2 out of 3 from Tampa Bay before arriving here yesterday, starting a 3-game series. They played the Cubs this year. They've been to Cincinnati, and now here in Milwaukee for a interleague matchup. Angels actually have a winning streak going in Milwaukee. 5 in a row. Takes you back a little ways, though. Back in 2002 when they won the World Series, they swept a series here. But this is one of those matchups you just don't see a lot of. As Trout takes off, Maldonado puts it right on the bag, and Trout is gunned down. What a throw from Maldonado. And Peralta is out of the inning. Martin Maldonado with a big fastball from behind the plate.
Wow.
Mike Trout to end the top of the first. And now Ron Roenicke and the Brewers ready to send this lineup out. Roenicke, the former Angel coach, third base coach to begin with, and ended up as the bench coach for Mike Scioscia. Knows this Angels organization very well. 11 seasons with the Angels. He has Aoki leading off, Segura, then Lucroy. Middle of the order is Ramirez, Gomez, and Davis, with Jeanette, Maldonado, and Peralta on the Piggly Wiggly batting order.
And Jared Weaver making start number 20. He's 8-7. He's got a 346 earned run average, coming off a season last year where he was 20-5 with a 281 earned run average. He missed about 2 months with a broken elbow.
30-year-old Jared Weaver, a 20-game winner last year and only 5 losses last season. He finished 3rd in the Cy Young Award voting. Been an all-star the last 3 seasons. And an unfortunate injury that sat him down for over 2 months.
And they called it in the Angels game notes, a non-displaced fracture to the left side radial head, non-surgical, on his left arm, or a broken elbow. Why don't they just say that? It's the 3rd time he's been on the disabled list in his career, so he's been able to stay relatively healthy, this being his 8th year.
He had a good string of at least 30 starts and 200 innings going for a few years. As a matter of fact, he's made at least 30 starts over the last 6 seasons until this season. Going to be tough to get him there this year. He's making his 20th start of the year here tonight. And last year was the first time in 3 years that he did not post 200 innings in a season. So he has by all means been their workhorse. He is extremely deceptive, and hitters will tell you that he is a tough guy to find the baseball because of the crossfire delivery that he has.
Yeah, throws across his body, actually steps toward 3rd base and doesn't throw very hard anymore, about 86. Every now and again he'll reach back if everything's going well and hit 90 miles an hour, but not too often. You kind of like him a little bit to Bronson Arroyo with the Cincinnati Reds. The big high leg kick, a lot of off-speed stuff. And he does get a number of ground ball. He throws a lot of strikes.
2-2 to Aoki. Back in the starting lineup tonight. Been nursing a sore knee. That's down the line. Foul. This is for Weaver one of the more unusual deliveries. It's tough to have good command with this delivery, but he does, and that's what makes him special.
At the high leg kick, he doesn't extend the foot like Bronson Arroyo, but you can see where his foot lands, and he throws across his body. And according to Johnny Naron, very difficult for hitters to figure out what's coming. He hides the baseball extremely well. Hitter just can't see it out of his hand.
Two and two on Aoki. Right back to the mound. Behind the legs. What a play. Jared Weaver reached around behind his legs to stop it first and then make the play to first base for the first out.
Yeah, fielding his position pretty well with that delivery. He falls off a little bit toward first, but able to knock it down and recover to get the out. There's one bounce on the pitching rubber, and he's able to make the play. So he knocked it down enough, didn't have to go too far to get it. And Noe not running very well. He still has his little problem with that knee.
He's been noticeably limping, but wants to continue to play. And he says it when it does spring up, it goes away fast. So we'll see if he's going to be able to take it to the finish line tonight. Well, Jean Segura, this has got to be a great night for him. Segura has nothing but praise for the Angels organization, and he gives them a lot of credit for his development and the fact that when he was traded from the Angels to the Brewers last year, he was quickly able to make an impact and make it to the big leagues last year.
Man, if he didn't get traded, he wouldn't be playing shortstop, for the Angels, that's for sure. Maybe over at second base, but they did move him last year to shortstop. And why would you have bad feelings about the Angels?
The Angels always felt like he was a Gold Glove caliber second baseman. They thought they could increase his. He could always go back to second, but increase a potential trade value if they needed a horse down the stretch run of a pennant race, and that's what they got in Greinke. It just didn't work out for him. Angels missed the postseason, and Greinke signed with the Dodgers this offseason. So that was a trade that stings on a number of fronts, and as guys like Segura continue to have success, Johnny Helwig will be here Sunday, most likely, making his final start in AAA tonight after winning the Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year award. And then Ariel Pena is the third in that trade that is wrapping up his season as a starter in Double-A. Segura, center field. Just missed it. Out to his buddy and former teammate Mike Trout. Out number 2.
Yeah, I guess that trade, bringing Segura here, one of a number of trades the last couple of years that have not worked out all that well. The big contracts to Pujols and Josh Hamilton, C.J. Wilson. And I think one of the things that a lot of folks talk about with respect to the Angels and what is missing in their ball club is, you know, the decision of sending Torrey Hunter, having him sending him packing, because he was a great clubhouse guy, a guy that can keep a team together.
I think about some of the names that they had as Lucroy digs in, guys like Kendrys Morales and Torrey Hunter, and Vernon Wells. So they had to make a lot of changes and try to clear some salary. They're still on the hook for a number of those salaries, and then they brought in a lot as well.
Irving Santana, pitcher,
traded him to Kansas City. Well, you can dive into the Angels. MLB.com. Hal Bodley wrote a terrific article about the Angels and the kind of stress it's putting on their manager, Mike Scioscia, and the kind of season that it has been. And they have certainly dealt with their fair share of injuries as well. They have the highest paid and longest tenured manager in the big leagues in Mike Scioscia.
And he's going to be around through 2018. He signed a lifelong contract. Of course, that's what his contract has him through 2018. And
Lucroy takes one inside. Well, let's introduce you to some of these young Angels. The Menards Angels defense with Chuck Trout and Calhoun in the outfield. Jimenez, Ibar, Green, and Trumbo go around the horn with Hank Conger doing the catching.
Yeah, Chris Iannetta has not been hitting all that well, so Conger back behind home plate. And the Angels have committed 91 errors this year, third most in the American League. So amongst not scoring runs and pitching being an issue, they haven't really played very good defense.
Losing Weaver was a huge loss for them. You lose your ace, it has a ripple effect through the club. Jonathan Lucroy hitting .288 starting play today with 17 home runs and 69 driven in. Lucroy back at first base tonight, his 4th career start, and he's starting to enjoy the position, he said. Doesn't hurt. When his last start there, he made a couple of nice picks in Cincinnati. He saved 2 errors in that game. He said, I didn't know I had it in me.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you can catch, I think first base is not that big of an adjustment as far as picking balls in the dirt and being able to move around. Footwork important in both spots. Just a matter of getting over there and getting a comfort level.
Another 3-2 pitch. Lucroy spoils another one. And the most important thing about Lucroy at first base, it keeps his bat in the lineup, and he can start to emerge as a Buster Posey type player, a catcher who plays first base. See Joe Mauer do it in the American League with the Twins, and that's the kind of bat the Brewers want to keep out there. And Lucroy, hard-earned walk. Terrific at bat. And a base runner with 2 outs for the Brewers.
9 pitches, and Lucroy able to draw the walk. 8 fastballs and a slider. Pitch number 9, just missing the upper portion of the strike zone.
Looks like up and away is the game plan against Lucroy. Weaver typically puts it where he wants to. So that'll give Aramis Ramirez a swing at Weaver. He's been a hot hitter. Ramirez homered yesterday, had an opposite field home run in Pittsburgh. 2 home runs in that series against the Pirates.
Man, one of them to the opposite field. That's a good sign for Ramirez, staying on the baseball and Took a while to get into the groove after coming off the DL.
Now Ramirez has spent 2 tours on the disabled list with the same injury, the right knee injury. Ramirez, it looks like, is starting to get his power back. His 2 home runs in Pittsburgh were both bombs, the one to right center, and then the first one he hit went 430 feet to the deepest part of the ballpark in Pittsburgh. That's no easy place to hit home runs, and I know Ramirez has been waiting for that power to come back.
And so have the Brewers. They can use him to be productive the rest of the way this year.
One ball, 2 strikes, and a check on Lucroy. Ramirez returned on the 12th of August, so he's been back 3 weeks essentially. And since he's come back, he's hitting .260 with 4 homers, 10 runs batted in. He's been very productive during that stretch.
And moving around much better defensively over at third base. And noticeably, getting the baseballs in the hole a little bit better, moving in on slow rollers in front of him. So that knee's starting to feel better.
Lucroy at first with a 2-out walk, the 2-2, and Ramirez spoils that one foul. And Brewers able to tack on some pitches here for Jared Weaver.
Able to foul off some high breaking pitches. So right now Weaver getting his off-speed pitches up in the strike zone. That's where he does not want them, but that's where the Brewers need to do some damage.
And another 2-2 offering from Weaver. And Ramirez strikes out. Up the ladder with a fastball. Weaver punches out Ramirez to end the inning. Scoreless. We're underway at Miller Park. We head to the second.
Make sure you come out Sunday. All fans in attendance at the Brewers-Angels game will receive a bobblehead of Stormin' Gorman Thomas, compliments of Wisconsin National Guard. Visit Brewers.com for tickets. And we all know this series reunites Ron Roenicke and Angels manager Mike Scioscia. Of course, Ron Roenicke worked with Mike Scioscia with the Angels for a long time, and they have a very interesting relationship because when they paired up, Roenicke actually had more managerial experience than Mike Scioscia, but he said it was good because the two already knew each other and they used each other as sounding boards, so they were able to navigate through a season and throughout their first big league careers as coaches in that period. So Ron Renicky, Mike Scioscia, still very good friends, but also learn from one another, and they're now both big league managers. BA?
Yeah, those two go back to their Dodger days together. They were roommates, as a matter of fact, when they were players with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Peralta right off his glove. Jeanette having to hurry here. The throw to first, not in time, and Calhoun beats it out. Peralta probably had an out if he doesn't touch the ball with his glove. It was right to Segura, who was playing up the middle, but fighting the instincts. You never know.
Well, you never know. Every pitcher is going to go after that baseball, and by the time Jeanette gets it, Calhoun's showing some pretty good speed.
That'll be an infield hit for Cole Calhoun, who was at the plate when Trout was caught stealing.
And one of the best throws we've seen by any catcher this year. That throw by Maldonado to get Trout. An incredible quickness from Maldonado. And that ball right on the money. Yeah, it's not easy to do when you're playing once every 5 days. I mean, staying in that defensive groove that he's been able to stay in. I mean, you get rusty behind home plate just like you do at the plate with the bat.
Mark Trumbo for the Angels, their power hitting first baseman, and he is sitting on 29 home runs this year, driven in 84. If he was in the National League, he would certainly have a chance to win a home run title. That's not the case in the American League with Chris Davis and Miguel Cabrera. Looks like both of those guys got a chance to hit 50 this year. Certainly Davis does. Miguel Cabrera is dealing with an abdominal injury, and his status is a little bit in question for the next few days.
Yeah, that was yesterday, trying to stretch a single into a double, a slide into second base, and hurt himself, and he'll be out for a couple days.
Trumbo's batting average just .236, but he does have a chance to drive in 100 this year, and certainly going to hit 30 home runs if he stays healthy. He's one away from that mark, and he could even, with a big month of September, get to 40 home runs this season. He's in a slump right now, though. He is hitless in his last 9 at-bats and just 3 for his last 22.
And a tough guy to walk. He's up there hacking.
Two and two with a runner at first, nobody out, and a swing and a miss, throw to first. Just back is Calhoun as Peralta strikes out Trumbo. Well, he's thrown a lot of fastballs tonight, Willie Peralta.
Yes, he has. This one out of the strike zone upstairs, and Trumbo can't get a piece of it. Calhoun looked like he wanted to try and take off, but thought better of it.
So Peralta has thrown 23 pitches so far, 20 of those fastballs, and every pitch he threw in the first inning was a fastball, which is a little bit unusual for Peralta. Maybe he is thinking about being a power pitcher tonight, using the four-seam fastball and try to get some strikeouts.
In his last few starts, he's really struggled with his slider, getting behind an account and having to come in with a fastball, and that's when hitters really tee off on you. He's saying, I'm not going to get myself in that bind. If I'm going to get beat, I'm going to get beat with my best pitch. There's a slider. It stays upstairs.
Yeah, sometimes pitchers, they lose the feel, and that's the way it's been for Peralta. That's really a difference maker for him. If he's going to throw a two-seam fastball, which is a power sinker, and that's why he gets a lot of ground balls, but there's nothing to complement that sinker. There's not the slider that is there for him to be the pair pitch. Then you've got to go to plan B.
And the other thing is, you don't want to show hitters if you can't throw it for strikes and you're going to continue to get behind on it. They really don't think about swinging at it and really just sit dead red and looking fastball. That's not what you want to do. So right now Maldonado has made the decision just to go after these guys, at least first time through the batting order, with the fastball.
Ball and a strike on Conger. And to the opposite field, Davis will watch it bounce. A base hit for the young catcher. And the Angels are threatening with runners at first and second. Just one man out.
And got that fastball up in the strike zone. It was a two-seamer that it didn't do much. It was away but upstairs, and he went right with it. Nice swing and a base hit into left field.
The Angels are high on Conger, and he's getting a lot of the playing time now over Chris Iannetta behind the plate. 2 on, 1 away, and here is Luis Jimenez, just up from AAA to play third base. The Angels traded Alberto Callaspo to the Oakland A's, and then they had Chris Nelson playing there. He's been placed on the disabled list with a hamstring injury, so Jimenez gets his chance. Been up and down with the Halos this year. This is just his 73rd at bat, and only 25 years of age.
And they say he's a slick fielder over there at third base, and he's going to learn how to hit. A lot of rookies for the Angels in the lineup. 4 of them tonight.
2 on, 1 away, and Peralta behind in the count. That ball's in the air to center. Gomez will run it down. Both runners are going to tag. The lead runner Calhoun will advance. So Conger stays put. Jimenez flies out. 2 gone in the inning. First and third for Peralta, with Grant Green coming up, the second baseman. Grant Green playing in just his 26th game of the year. One-time Oakland Athletics prospect and a former first rounder with the A's. His first go around with the Angels this year. He had a little big league time with Oakland earlier this season. He was part of that Callaspo trade.
There's a breaking ball for a strike. Yeah, pretty much straight away for Green in the outfield and in the infield.
Good block. Maldonado keeps the runners where they are, and it goes to a ball and a strike. Got the pitcher Weaver on deck, a guy who doesn't hit that often, so you certainly want to be careful, but you do have a young hitter at the plate. See if he'll chase a few, maybe.
You certainly have to go right after Green and have Weaver lead off the next inning, but you get behind him, be careful, and get the out. If you walk him, so be it.
We'll see what Peralta has in mind here. 2 balls and a strike. And he misses badly. 3 and 1. Grant Green is a Southern California kid. Played his college ball at USC. He is from Anaheim. Went to high school in Anaheim. I'm sure he's glad to be back home and playing for his hometown team, the Angels. 3 and 1. Green swings and misses. Boy, that had some sink on it.
Nice to be able to have that pitch to go to when you get on top of it. Get those fingers right on top of that baseball. Good shot of it right there, and that's why you got the good sink. And you had Green right over the top.
Full count. Conger will get a head start at first. 2 outs. There he goes, and a swing and a miss. Went right back to it, but a little more hair on it this time. 97-mile-an-hour fastball and a strikeout to end the inning. All-star Carlos Gomez ready to lead off. We are headed to the bottom of the second. No score at Miller Park.
All the way back to 2002, the last time the Angels visited here in Milwaukee. And so our AT&T Twitter poll, we're going to get a little nostalgic. We're going to take a look back. What's your favorite moment in the Brewers-Angels history? You can tweet us at FS Wisconsin with, of course, the 1982 pennant. The Brewers rallying down 2-0 to come back and win their first American League pennant. July 8th, 1990, the Brewers won that game 20-7, 13 runs in the 5th inning for the Brew Crew. And Ben Sheets in 2004, June 8th, he went 9 shutout innings, gave up just 1 single to Vladimir Guerrero, but the Brewers needed 17 innings to win that one, 1-0. So there have been some great moments. And Rock, maybe you can weigh in from your time on the Angels as well.
Yeah, I remember that game for Ben Sheets. That was getaway day for the Brewers, heading back to Milwaukee after a 17-inning 1-0 ball game. I was around for 2 of those instances. The 20-7 game. Bert Blyleven started that ball game. The Angels actually had a 7-0 lead in that ball game.
Really?
And Sophie was talking about that 13-run inning. Obviously, Blyleven did not get out of that inning. Mike Fetters came in, never got an out, and went on for a 20-7 victory. I was catching Blyleven as a member of the Angels in that game. Never forget that one.
1 gone. Chris Davis at the plate against Weaver. Yeah, we talked a lot about the connections between the Brewers and the Angels. Certainly some great matchups and great memories when Milwaukee was in the American League, and you got the Segura connection, the Ron Renicky connection. But then you got the Bill Schroeder connection with the Angels. And it doesn't seem like you can think about the Angels and Rock without thinking about Bert Blyleven.
Yeah.
That was when I felt like your mullet was at its premier.
Prime.
That's when it was at its best.
Yeah, it was big back in Southern California.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Not so much in Milwaukee, but the Southern Californians loved it.
Davis is out on a grounder to third. 2 up, 2 down for Jared Weaver. How about we take you back? Check it out. Behind the plate, The Rock catching Bert Blyleven.
How about that hook?
See, most people would think these are Bert Blyleven highlights, but we beg to differ.
There it is. No mullet. What are you talking about, mullet?
I don't know. I think it's just
kind of covered up.
Kind of frothy. Working up a good lather that night.
That was a 2 years over in Anaheim. I tell you, had some good ball clubs, really good teams, and unfortunately, back in those days, 89 and 90, that's when the Oakland A's were winning 100+ games a year. No wild card. But I know we won 90+ games each of the 2 years I was there.
Saw you earlier before the game having a chat with Mark Langston. Talented hurler for the Angels.
Lefty, nasty. He started his career with the Mariners. And he and I started, went over to the Angels the same year, '89.
Jeanette pops this one up, and right on top of the mound, Jimenez makes a play in a very quick inning for Jared Weaver. 1, 2, 3, the Brew Crew in order. To the third we go, no score.
Stand from Milwaukee. No score between the Brewers and Angels. And tonight's time of the game winner, Carolina's Legion Bar in Waupun. If they call the Brewers in the next 24 hours, they get 40 Miller Lite beer pen tickets to a Brewers home game. This offer courtesy of the Tavern League of Wisconsin and Miller Lite.
And we are on our way to the third inning now, and the pitcher Jared Weaver will lead off for the Angels. 9-1-2 coming up. And Willie Peralta having given up 2 hits and a walk tonight. Had a couple of Ks last inning. And he has the fastball on board tonight. 97-mile-an-hour fastball that time. That's what he struck out Green with, a 97-mile-an-hour sinker. Power sinker. And Maldonado makes it look good, and a called strike 3, and Jared Weaver says, all right, I'll take that one.
Yeah, you give me that one, I'll be fine with it.
Third strikeout for Peralta. That'll give us a chance to look at our Carsoup.com email the booth question. Connor wants to know how much advanced scouting is done when playing an American League team.
A lot. I mean, there's no secrets anymore. I mean, with video and the scouting reports that teams get, that you have an advanced scout that watches the team, see who's hot, who's not. Not going to be any surprises in that Brewers dugout with respect to what the Angels do or what they don't do. And the same goes for the Angels in their dugout.
And all those players who go to Ron Renicky and say, tell me about this team, he says, don't look at me. It's been 3 years since I was there, and this roster has turned over significantly since that time. There are very few players that Renicky coached while he was in Anaheim as the bench coach. His last season, 2010. Of course, he came here in 2011. They were a perennial division champ during the Renicky years. Angels have not been to the postseason since '09, but they won 5 division titles under the managerial reign of Mike Scioscia. Of course, that World Series in '02 as Peralta picks up another K. He's got 3 in a row now.
How about that slider right there? He might have found it right there. I mean, that's a good one. right under the bat of Shuck. Check this out. That's about as good as it gets right there. A 2-strike slider down in the zone, and it comes up empty.
The best one he's thrown tonight. And that could be a game changer for him. When Peralta has that pitch going, along with his fastball, he can blow right through a lineup. Eric Ibar, switch hitting shortstop into left field. Davis on the run, got a good jump on that ball, and he'll make it look easy at the end. So 1, 2, 3. Peralta retires him in order with a couple of Ks. No score here at Miller Park. We're headed to the bottom of the 3rd inning. The Brewers are coming up, and a reminder that the Sports and Highlights show you've been waiting for is now here. Fox Sports Live, Jay Onrait, Dan O'Toole. They are joined by Carissa Thompson and her panel of former stars. They bring you everything you need to know about the world of sports. Fox Sports Live, it's airing nightly on the brand new network, Fox Sports 1. I've enjoyed watching Gabe Kapler on that panel as well. You've got guys like Donovan McNabb and Gary Payton, among others.
Good baseball information on that show. Yeah, I've seen it a couple of times.
Martin Maldonado will lead off for the Brewers. Maldonado hitting just .174. 3 home runs and 19 driven in. Not playing much. He typically only catches when Peralta is on the mound. A little half swing. Unable to check it. It goes to 2-1. You got 2 hurlers on the mound tonight who do it in vastly different ways. Jared Weaver and Willie Peralta.
Yeah, both of them sink the baseball, but Weaver about 8 miles an hour less, maybe more, on the fastball, but more deception from Weaver. Talked about how he throws across his body. His landing foot stepping toward third base. And you would think with a delivery like that, it would be difficult to throw strikes, but not an issue for him.
Weaver, the younger brother of Jeff Weaver, pitched in the big leagues. These guys from Simi Valley, California. Jeff had a long career. He pitched over a decade in the big leagues. mostly with the Tigers when he came up. And Maldonado draws the walk. So the Brewers get some production out of their 8th place hitter. And they lead off walk.
Let's check out the lane. Now check it out right here. They're both pitching on the third base side of the rubber. And that's the key. Right here, they both start from the same spot. Well, watch where Weaver lands and then watch where Peralta lands. Two completely different spots, and we're talking 2 to 3 feet difference. And that's the deception that Jared Weaver and that delivery will give you. Talking to Johnny Nairn before the ball game, he says that's what it's all about for Weaver. It's not a matter of stuff. He throws strikes, he throws across his body, hides that baseball behind his back about as long as anybody in the big leagues.
That bunt is in the air and an easy play for Trumbo. Peralta unable to get the bunt down. And Maldonado will have to stay put. So the first out.
And watch the barrel of the bat go down. The ball goes up, and that's normally what happens. You got to keep the barrel of the bat above the handle as best you can. Instead of dropping the barrel, you got to bend the knees, and that's what we're talking about. That ball just comes out of nowhere right at the last minute, and because of that delivery, the hitters just cannot recognize what pitch he's throwing.
So one gone, Maldonado at first still, and here is Nori Aoki. He had a big cut. Nori bounced out back to the mound in the first inning. Nifty play by Jared Weaver as he reached around behind his legs. He's falling off the mound and reached around and was able to knock the ball down and then recover to throw Aoki out. Nori usually beats those out. He's among league leaders in infield hits, but he's not running.
Where's the baseball? There it is. And there it is again.
That was a real look at what a big league fastball looks like.
Yeah.
The foul ball. I always wonder what the radar gun picks up on a ball like that. Does it pick the pitch up or does it pick the foul ball? So you think you want to hit big league pitching? See that blur as the ball came in?
Yeah.
That's about what the ball looked like in my entire career.
4/10 of a second to decide whether you want to swing or not.
Aoki dumps one into left field. Nice piece of hitting there. Just serves one into left. And the Brewers putting up a little bit of a threat now. First time tonight they've had 2 on. And they've got the heart of their order coming up.
Their first hit for the Brewers tonight. Weaver, the author of a no-hitter last year. And Nori able to dump one into left field. May 2nd last year against the Minnesota Twins, Jared Weaver threw a no-hitter.
Yeah, one of the 7 last season. Gets ahead of Segura. Weaver said he always felt like he had the potential to throw a no-hitter when he was a hard thrower earlier in his career. But he thought those days maybe had passed him by, but not the case last season.
Anybody in the big leagues that steps on that pitching rubber has the chance, the potential of throwing a no-hitter. You don't have to be a Hall of Famer to throw a no-hitter. Matter of fact, there's a ton of Hall of Famers that have never thrown a no-hitter. Every pitcher has the potential to put together a brilliant outing. You get to the big leagues, you do.
Segura down 0-2. And he laid off the high fastball. Weaver gets a lot of strikeouts with that high fastball.
That's how long he hides that baseball. Here it comes up in his zone. That's only 85 miles an hour.
Ball and 2 strikes. Brewers have 2 on. And Segura right off the end of the bat. Segura made his big league debut with the Angels. He played in just 1 game with the Angels last year. We'll send right back down. Traded to the Brewers, and we thought we might not see Segura until September, if at all, last season, but he came up in early August, and he was outstanding. So good that he earned the opening day nod as the starting shortstop for the Brewers beginning this season.
And Brewers brought him up thinking that they were out of contention. They were really not looking to get to the postseason. Segura came up, the team caught fire, and they made a run. And that experience for Segura valuable this year.
Just 23 years of age, Segura. Bouncing ball, a slow roller. Ibar to second for 1. Segura beats it out to keep the inning alive.
Yeah, right off the end of the bat, tried to pull a breaking pitch, and there's no way you're going to turn the double play on a ball hit that slowly with Segura running. Hey, come out to the ballpark as the Brewers host the Pittsburgh Pirates Monday through Wednesday. For tickets, call 414-902-4000 or visit Brewers.com. You know, Monday is a 1:10 start, and
yes,
it's Dollar Hot Dog Day.
$1 at 1 o'clock. Dollar Hot Dog Day.
So bring your dollar bills. I know you had some.
It's also Labor Day. Looking forward to that. Day baseball here. Supposed to be good weather. It's going to cool off a little bit. You know the parking lots will be packed up. Well, Jonathan Lucroy stands in with 2 away. Hitting near 300 this year with runners in scoring position. Trying to put the Brewers on the board for the first time. And a throw to first. Segura is back. Segura always wanting to run and looking to run.
Yeah, Weaver stepped off. Segura did not even flinch, didn't even go back, and then Weaver said, all right, I'll throw it over, make you dive in.
Segura is the National League leader in stolen bases. And Lucroy fouls it back. Little off-speed pitch from Weaver.
Yeah, Weaver gave him the slide step and froze him over there. Didn't see that move before.
.5 months on the disabled list with a broken elbow on his non-pitching arm. He's come back and he's trying to have a strong finish for the Angels. Give them some hope leading into next season.
It was actually a fracture to the left side radial head, non-surgical on his left arm.
That's what it was. That's what that was. You know how those radial heads can be.
Yeah, they can be tricky.
That's a strike. Outside corner. And Lucroy is down 0-2. Brewers have just 1 hit. That was Aoki's single earlier this inning. Weaver's walked 2. Lucroy trying to do some damage. So far, Segura has not been able to get a read on Weaver. And Lucroy in the right field. Routine for Calhoun, and Weaver gets through it. Brewers strand 2. Weaver works around a walk and a single, and we are still scoreless. Brewers baseball on Fox Sports Wisconsin is brought to you by Piggly Wiggly, the official supermarket of Fox Sports Wisconsin. By Ho Chunk Gaming Wisconsin, your ticket to more. And by Marshfield Clinic. Don't just live, shine. Our head and shoulders whiff tonight. How about Willie Peralta against the Angels leadoff hitter J.B. Shuck?
Yeah, he found that slider that time. Forced strikeout for Willie, getting him on that slider down and in. And second out in the third inning, our head and shoulders whiff. Good pitch by Willie.
And Peralta had 2 Ks in the third. He has 4 total. 3 shutout innings on the board. They're facing Mike Trout to start the fourth. Trout, Calhoun, and Trumbo. And Trout goes deep to right. Aoki in the corner, and Aoki makes the catch. Nice play by Nori Aoki to retire Trout.
Man, good camera work to get an angle on that baseball down in the corner. Nori playing deep and right, able to go over and make a leaping catch against that wall. There's a good shot of it right there. That's a big out to get Mike Trout.
Nori, who has shied away from the walls this year. Not that time. He went crashing into it. Excellent play to retire a big bat. And now Cole Calhoun, who launches one. Wow. Calhoun sends that one way out of here. The Angels are on the board. No doubt about that one. 1-0 Halos on Calhoun's second hit of the ball game.
Boy, not messing around. First pitch to him in that at bat, and he just launches one. A no doubter to right field, second deck. And that pitch right down the middle of the plate. A 2-seam fastball at only 94 miles an hour, and Calhoun ready for it and hit it hard.
Well, Mike Scioscia has had Calhoun hitting leadoff lately. And all of his homers coming from that leadoff spot until this one. So hitting in the cleanup spot today, and he acts like a cleanup hitter. He goes deep. His 5th home run. Mark Trumbo, even in the count, a ball and a strike. Trumbo pops this one up. Aoki playing very deep. He'll come in and make the play for out number 2. The 2 big boppers retired. Calhoun surprises him. Still smiling about that one.
Jim Eppert, the hitting coach, giving high fives.
That'll bring up Hank Conger. He's got big power as well. And that ball's hit down the right field line. Going to be trouble if it's fair, and that is a foul ball. Conger just got out ahead of that one. It sounded like it was off the end of the bat a little bit. It had a lot of hook on it. Yeah, hit the rail.
Yeah.
Not a lot of room down there. Foul territory, as Aoki showed us against Trout. One and 2 on Conger. It's another native Southern Californian playing on the Angels. He's from Huntington Beach, California, and a former first rounder. I was talking to Bruce Side before the game. The Brewers director of scouting, amateur scouting, and he knows a lot of these players from the area code games in Southern California. And the Angels took a number of those players and have taken a number through the years from those games, and they've tried to scout their area. And why wouldn't you when you live in Los Angeles? Great amateur baseball in that area.
They play all year round. Big advantage for the kids in Southern California. Florida, Arizona. Playing season somewhat limited here in the Midwest.
Full count to Conger. And he just got a piece of that one. Angels have on their traveling party Scott Service here this week. He works in the baseball operations department, and Service is from Wisconsin. He was excited to come on this trip. He is a huge Green Bay Packer fan, and he was looking forward to returning to Miller Park.
Yeah, you were locked and loaded before the game. You talked to a number of players, haven't you?
You know, first game of series, Rock. You got to get in there and dive in.
Players and front office and coaches and
wow. Yeah, talked to Rick Schlesinger today.
Yeah,
we had it all covered.
And you got here at 6 o'clock.
No, 6:15. Bouncing ball. Lucroy will jump on it and flips it to Peralta.
Busy man.
Yep. It's all about R&D, research and development. Calhoun gives the Angels the lead. Strikeout across MLB during the regular season. A $1 donation will be made to the MLB RBI National Program. And MLB fans in local RBI leagues can also take part in the Season of the Whiff on Twitter all season long. When a pitcher for the Brewers strikes out an opposing batter, fans should just tweet with the hashtag Whiff to @Brewers in order for the tweet to count. They're going to be giving away $10,000 a month and $80,000 for the season. Head and Shoulders. Aramis Ramirez will lead off for the Brewers, down 1-0 now on a Cole Calhoun solo homer in the top of the fourth. Brewers had 2 on against Weaver in the third. Last inning, he retired Lucroy to end the threat. The elusive Jared Weaver.
Yeah. He's given up 14 home runs in 19 starts this year. Anaheim Stadium, is that what they're calling it? Angel Stadium these days, right? Is that what it's called? The
Sure.
Big A?
The Big A. I like the Big A.
That's a pretty good hitter's park, particularly during the day. When I played there, that was a totally enclosed ballpark. Rams used to play there. football Rams.
Aramis Ramirez with a base hit. So reached out and poked one into left on a breaking ball by Weaver, and the Brewers have just their second hit. This time it leads an inning off.
It's all about timing for Ramirez. Not too many guys are going to be able to pull that pitch and end up with a base hit to left. Most guys are going to wait back, try to punch it into right field, but Ramirez very good at hooking that breaking pitch away as long as it's up, and it was.
That'll bring up Gomez now. The Brewers were in Anaheim just a few years ago. I think that was 2010.
Took 2 out of 3. Yeah.
And the Angels have not been here in this ballpark since '07, but that was the series against the Indians. They haven't been here against the Brewers at Miller Park since '02, which was just the second year of existence of this park.
And not a very good season for Milwaukee.
They talked to a lot of the Angels personnel, those who were here in '07. They were so impressed at Milwaukee baseball fans. Remember, that was a series that was put together last minute. There was a lot of snow in Cleveland. They had to try to get somewhere else as Gomez is hit by a pitch. And he is on his way to first, and now 2 on to start this inning for the Brewers against Weaver, who is staring down Carlos Gomez.
Yeah, Gomez, one of the only guy in the starting lineup that's ever faced Weaver. Gomez in his days with the Twins. 2 for 8 coming in against Weaver. Not sure if there's any history there. But the Brewers have something cooking with nobody out.
So 2 on with nobody out for Chris Davis. After the Angels score in the top of this inning, the Brewers threatening once again. Second inning, they've had 2 runners on against Weaver, this time with nobody out. And a big swing from Davis. Now that series back in '07, they slammed that together and just tried to get a dry venue. That was one of the worst weather seasons ever in baseball, the start of the year in 2007. So they came here, they put it together fast, and they still drew nearly 20,000 per game for that series. $10 tickets, and Brewers fans were hungry for baseball, or baseball fans here. And a great venue to see it, and that left a lasting impression on all of those in the Angels camp who were here then and remain with the ball club.
Impressed with the fans, impressed with the venue. Miller Park. Nothing like it.
Davis down in the count, 0-2. He doesn't bite on this one. Davis has had quite an impact on the Brewers. Getting the chance to play every day in left field after Ryan Braun was suspended. Has 8 home runs, 19 driven in. And those numbers, all of the home runs and most of the RBIs coming since he took over for Braun on the 23rd of July. In the 27 games for Davis since that time, he's hitting .342, 8 homers, 19 runs batted in. Popped him up. And Schuck will make the call and the catch. As we check in with Telly Hughes. What's going on down on the farm, Telly?
Well, BA, in our Brewers minor league report, Kentrell Davis had himself quite a night last night for the Nashville Sounds in 14 innings. He was 4 for 7 with 4 singles and 2 runs, and for the season he's batting .285. So more talent coming through the pipeline for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, Kentrell, former football player. We saw a lot of Kentrell this spring. The two Davises, Kentrell and Chris, made some headlines this spring. Of course, Chris had the 6 home runs this spring, and he has emerged in the big leagues, and you know Kentrell would like to be next.
Going to be interesting to see who the Brewers bring up. They can expand the rosters on September 1st. Of course, a lot of the guys that would have been called up are already here,
including the batter at the plate, Scooter Gennett.
September 1st, that's Sunday.
Yeah, we are inside a month to the finish line. Season ends September 29th against the Mets in New York.
Game 134 tonight.
Well, Gennett's been swinging a hot bat. Let's see if he can keep it going. That ball's in the air to right and dropping fast. It's going to fall. Ramirez had to hold his ground. And a good throw comes in from the strong-armed Calhoun. And the bases are loaded. Scooter Gennett comes up with another base hit.
It's now a hit in 19 of 21. Well, he's been swinging the bat well, able to keep the bat in the hitting zone long enough. There's that two-seam fastball. It's trying to get away from Scooter out in front, but levels out the swing, keeps it in the hitting zone, and dumps it into right field. A good throw out there by Calhoun. See a little bit of a late break by Aramis Ramirez. Ed Cedar forced to hold him up.
Bases loaded for Maldonado. Tell you what, the kind of month Scooter Gennett is having, you got to start thinking about him as a potential player of the month. He's hitting .417 in the month of August.
Yeah,
Scooter Gennett. It's his 30th hit already this month. 2-0 to Maldonado.
Been very impressive, has Scooter, not just with the bat.
Mike Butcher is the Angels pitching coach, and he wants a chat.
I'll tell you, Maldonado in a perfect position right now. 2-0, bases loaded. Weaver forced to throw him a strike. Hitters lick their chops in these spots. Look for a fastball exactly where you want it. If you don't get it, take it.
If you're wondering, Maldonado has one career grand slam that came last year. That was I think the last day of the year last year against the Padres here at Miller Park. Got the bases full. 2 balls, no strikes. Brewers down 1-0. Maldonado takes ball 3. Threw him a breaking ball on a 2-0 pitch.
Yeah, thought he was going to be swinging no matter what, and Maldonado looked like he was taking all the way. Might see him take one here. First pitch pretty close.
And a green light, and he pops it up. Man, oh man. That is a huge break for the Angels as Maldonado swings away 3-0. And he is out. Not only is it the second out, but it brings the pitcher Peralta to the plate, and suddenly Weaver has a way out of this inning. Boy, that one stings.
Yeah, you can understand why Ryan Rennicky let him swing 3-0. You got the pitcher coming up, but you know, a guy that's in the lineup, you know, once a week. I know his timing's off a little bit. And this one center cut right down the middle, and he popped it up.
Well, here is Peralta trying to help his cause here, and he can. Peralta's a good hitting pitcher. Got a little power as well. sure the Angels know that. Charter Cable high-speed pitch. These two starters, Peralta topping out at 97, Weaver at 90. And most of his fastballs have been in the upper 80s.
86, 87.
Bases loaded for Peralta. Trying to get a mistake from Weaver. And it's 0-2 now. Boy, how fast it changes. Weaver sitting there in a 3-0 count, bases loaded, 1 out. Maldonado swings away, pops it up, and now a strike away from getting out of the inning without a run. The 0-2, and Peralta able to lay off a high fastball. Billy has 7 hits this year. He'd love one right now. Ball and 2 strikes. He didn't chase a breaking ball. That was close. Looks like he's throwing a wiffle ball, Jared Weaver.
Yeah. Jim Wolf has been calling the low strike, but not that time.
Evens the count 2-2, and Peralta off the end of the bat. Pop up to Trout. Side retired. Brewers come up empty. Weaver gets out of it, stranding the bases loaded. 1-0 Angels. Delivery, and we go back to Maldonado in the first inning with Mike Trout on the run. Maldonado guns him down. Look at this throw from the Brewer catcher.
Yeah, freaky fans. How about the footwork from Maldonado? That's where it all begins. Gets himself in good position. Quick feet even before the ball was in his glove, in position to throw.
He excels defensively. Maldonado has had his troubles with the bat, and you know his last at-bat's got to be burning him up right now.
He's trying to overswing on a 3-0 pitch. He had a good pitch to hit, just tried to hit it out of the ballpark.
Now Peralta back at it. He was the final out. Angels lead 1-0 as we head to the 5th. Just a reminder that the Badger Sports Report is your all-access pass to UW football. Each week, Badger head coach Gary Anderson weighs in as the Badger Sports Report gives you all the game highlights, features, interviews, everything you need to keep up with the Badgers. Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. only on Fox Sports Wisconsin. Badgers in action tomorrow against UMass. So the kickoff of the season tomorrow at Camp Randall. Always a great time in Madison. Luis Jimenez leading off for the Angels. Bottom of the order coming up for the Angels against Peralta. Pitching matchups are set for the final two games of the series. Marco Estrada against Jerome Williams tomorrow. That game will start at 6 o'clock. We're on the air at 5:30, and then Loesch against C.J. Wilson on Sunday.
That'll be a good one, won't it? Yeah, Loesch been throwing the ball well. So has Wilson.
There are the next two starters. Estrada coming off a gem in Cincinnati, and Kyle Loesch, who is 9-8 this year and a 3.39 earned run average. Going to be interesting to see how the rosters go on September 1st on Sunday when they expand. The Brewers aren't expected to call up many. I'm not sure the Angels are going to call up any. Both of their upper level minor league teams are going to the postseason as Peralta strikes out Jimenez to start the fifth.
Plus they have a number of players in the big leagues that they didn't figure were going to be here already. You know, similar situation to Milwaukee. There's that two-seamer. Boy, when he gets those fingers on top, look at the way that ball dives as it gets to home plate. Once in a while, he will get his release point a little bit messed up, and the fingers will be on his side, and he'll get some movement, but not down. Been pretty consistent with that pitch tonight.
Grant Green, the Angels second baseman, who struck out with 2 on in the second inning. That's the pitch that has given him trouble. He missed 2 of them in the second inning. Got a piece of that one, but perhaps the Brewers have found a hole in his swing. A lot of hitters have that hole when you're facing 97 miles an hour.
Yeah, with sink on it. Yeah.
Ooh, good breaking ball. Didn't get the call, and it goes to a ball and 2 strikes. That looked like more of a curveball than a slider.
And a great pitch. Should have been called a strike. Where'd that miss?
There's a roller out to Segura. And he takes care of Green for the second out. And a chance for Peralta to make this a quick inning with the pitcher Weaver coming up.
You would think, being the brother of a big league pitcher, Randy Wolf, that everything would be a strike for Jim Wolf.
That's not the case. Randy always told us that when he was pitching here. He said, wouldn't it be cool to have your brother be the home plate umpire, and you know, you'd be pitching and he'd be the umpire? He goes, no way, he's a hitter's umpire.
100 pitches, 99 strikes.
The older brother of Randy Wolf, Jim Wolf. Oh, 0-2 to Weaver. And he got him. So Weaver down on strikes again, and a 3-up, 3-down inning for Peralta. 2 more strikeouts gives him 6. Fifth inning. Family night here at the ballpark. Good to see all the kids out. See the final there in Pittsburgh. The Pirates shutting out the Cardinals 5-0 after the Brewers shut out Pittsburgh yesterday. That means Pittsburgh jumps into a first place tie with St. Louis. By the way, John Axford was active tonight for the Cardinals. And the Pirates are going to be here on Monday. Labor Day is Dollar Dog Day here at the ballpark. Note that is a 1:10 first pitch. We're on the air at 12:30. We hope you can join us at Miller Park on Labor Day. And for most students here in Wisconsin, the last day before schools begin. Nori Aoki will lead off. After Weaver works around the bases loaded last inning, and Aoki takes a strike. Speaking of going back to school, we want to send out our best to all the teachers out there, and we wish you the best of luck. Thanks for taking care of our children.
Yeah,
doing a great service for our community. And it's hard work and not a lot of credit, but we always want to recognize our teachers. So kids, treat them well. There's a strike called. Aoki is rung up.
Neither one of these pitchers messing around too much in the strike zone. I mean, they are going right down the middle of the plate. 85 miles an hour to Aoki, and this one right down the middle, above the knees, and he took it. Jim Wolf has been calling that low strike all night, so hitters beware. Call it a low strike, but it is a strike. It's in the strike zone.
So one away here is Segura now. And he shows bunt. By the way, in that Cardinal Pirates game, Pittsburgh shut him out 5-0. Garrett Jones had 4 runs batted in. And Garrett Jones did not start one game in the Brewers series.
Pinch hit one time. Yep. We were wondering what was wrong with him. Apparently nothing.
Yeah, he had a big night tonight.
Gabby Sanchez started all 3 games at first base.
Segura pops it up. Mark Trumbo in foul territory for out number 2. So that leaves the Reds currently 3 back. Cincinnati is in Colorado tonight. Reds are tied with the Rockies in the top of the 4th inning. Cincinnati with a win could get back to 2.5. Pick up a game on St. Louis, or stay 3.5 back. Reds have Bronson Arroyo on the mound tonight. Here's the Powerball home run leaderboard. Lucroy with 17. That's a career high, and he's one off the team high. Not the monster home run year by an individual, but pretty balanced across the board. And the Brewers as a team still in the top 5 in the league in homers.
Yeah. Surprisingly. Of course, Miller Park has a little bit to do with that, but still the guys have been able to hit the home runs. Playing some pretty good baseball since the end of May.
Lucroy into right. Backing up is Calhoun. And that's a breeze of an inning for Weaver. Brewers go quietly in the 5th, 1-2-3, and it's still 1-0 Angels. Game break here as the Pirates get the win and the images to go with it. Garrett Jones, Russell Martin with home runs. Jones drove in 4 of the 5. Martin had the other, and a shutout for Pittsburgh. And it was Francisco Liriano who spun another dandy. And, you know, Rock, we talked about how difficult left-handed starters are on the St. Louis Cardinals. And Liriano made that hold up tonight once again.
And you wonder how that's going to play out for, you know, the Cardinals as they get into the postseason. But it's interesting how sometimes maybe you don't see a whole lot of left-handers. How many left-handers are actually in the Central Division? Not too many. You don't see many.
Top of the Angels order, J.B. Shuck. 26-year-old leadoff hitter tonight. Shuck is in his first year in the big leagues, and it took him a while to get here, but he's making the most of it. And as a matter of fact, in the American League among rookies, he ranks first in hits, runs, doubles, and total bases. And he's second in batting average and triples. And he has put his name in the ring for the American League Rookie of the Year, trying to make it back-to-back years. That's a jam shot out to Segura for out number 1.
Yeah, talk about left-handers in the Cardinals. 5-21 now with Liriano beating him tonight. 15-21, I should say. And 63-35 against right-handed starters.
Wow.
So yeah, it's an issue for St. Louis.
So they're 28 over against right-handers, 6 under against lefties, and you start thinking about a 1-game wild card scenario. You almost, even if your best pitcher is right-handed, you almost have to think about starting a lefty.
And the Brewers 12-25 against lefties.
That used to be in reverse for many years until this year. Started to see a little bit of that last season, but the Brewers used to dominate left-handed pitching. Certainly did in 2011, Renick's first year.
Yeah, Braun and Hart in the lineup. I think those numbers would be a little bit different.
Yeah, good point. And a healthy Ramirez. Here's a pop-up. Peralta using the high fastball, and he's got 2 outs quickly here in the 6th. And Mike Trout will bat. Looking at 2 of the top defenders in center field in the league, and Trout and Gomez, and these 2 can put together quite the highlight reel. It'll be a fun series watching these guys, and both are hitting well and producing. Trout at a much higher level, but that's no knock on Gomez. That's one of Trout's more famous catches. And check this out, only 2 players in the big league since the start of last season with at least 30 homers and 60 steals. And those are the 2. That might slow him down a little bit.
Pounds it right off his foot. That tells you have a pretty good sinker going tonight when you get guys pounding pitches off their legs and feet. Rick Smith, the assistant athletic trainer for the Angels. You know, Smitty was the trainer when I was playing with the Angels. He's been around a long time. And you see it right off the toe.
Ouch.
Rick Smith in his 36th season as the athletic trainer for the Angels.
Well, he has seen it all and heard it all, and whatever Trout said to him, he is going to allow him to stay in the game.
Must be doing something right. You stick around that long.
For sure. Angels have another guy in their front office, one of the great guys in the game, and Tim Mead, who runs their communications department, and he's on the trip this week, and he's one of our favorite guys. Always great to see Tim Mead.
Media relations director when I played with the Angels. Now he's one of the big bosses.
Big bouncer. Segura hustling it over to first, and Trout is out, and he is 0 for 2 with a walk. Segura takes care of him easily. 1, 2, 3 for Peralta. racing sausages entertaining the crowd here. And the Italian, kind of the lowrider version of the Italian, and picking them up and putting them down as fast as he can go. Nice, easy win for the Italian here tonight. Check it out at the end. He gives a little Aaron Rodgers, little discount double check.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers has ever crossed the end zone, you know, with that little that arm thing going.
That's a good point.
I get it, you know, the belt thing.
Yeah, the belt, the championship belt. Made famous by a number of wrestlers before Aaron Rodgers, but he brought it into the mainstream. Aramis Ramirez into left center. And Trout with just enough room to make the play for the out.
Yeah, he hit that one well, just got under it, and a good pitch to hit. Just missed it.
Brewers being shut out tonight. Peralta is spending a beauty. Just 3 hits and 1 run. A home run by Cole Calhoun. Milwaukee's had their chances. They left 2 on in the 3rd, and then the bases loaded in the 4th. They had the bases loaded with 1 out.
And a 3-0 score. And a 3-0 count to Maldonado. Yep.
Three hits apiece. Brewers got 2 of those hits in the 4th inning. And all of their hits singles. Carlos Gomez was hit by a pitch his last time up. And I saw that at the end of that inning, Gomez and Weaver had a little staring confrontation after the hit by pitch. But then at the end of the inning, those two had a little chat. It looked like it was very civil and no hard feelings. Both nodding at each other and smiling, saying, all right, we're good. Don't mind a little bit of that. Guys are playing hard and into game mode.
Especially when you get into the latter part of August and into September, everything hurts a little bit more. You're hard pressed to find somebody that's feeling 100% these days. If you do, then you haven't played much.
Right. 2-2. And Gomez lays off. I always thought it would get in a pitcher's head if you got drilled by a pitch and you just took off sprinting to first base, as opposed to standing there wincing. I think pitchers like when you stand there and wince.
Just don't rub it.
Yeah. Just take off.
You know what they really don't like is when they hit you and you pick up the ball and you flip it back to them. They don't like that too much.
And they really don't like when you charge them out or throw a bat at them.
When's the last time you saw that in baseball?
You never see that anymore, right?
No, no. Which is good.
Yeah. Missed low, and Gomez is aboard.
And not by much. I mean, that's been a strike, very close to a strike for Jim Wolf all night.
Well, a man on with 1 away. That'll lead us to our text question tonight, courtesy of Ho Chunk Gaming. Cindy wants to know, do you think it's difficult when friends play or manage against each other?
I can't really speak to manage against each other. I've never done that. But playing against the Brewers when I was with the Angels, you always wanted to, you know, do a little bit extra. Always wanted to get the one-upsmanship, and especially when you're up there and you're hitting against a pitcher that you caught. I mean, I went through that when I was with the Angels and we play in the Brewers, and you kind of know that you know what they want to do and when they want to do it. And pitchers know that, and they'll switch it up a little bit. But I think Scioscia and Roenicke pretty much know each other pretty well as far as when they want to do things, the squeeze, the steal, you know, and things like that. So maybe you have to go out of the box a little bit in those situations. Do something that you don't ordinarily do.
Well, Mike Scioscia, when the Angels won the World Series in '02, had one of the great coaching staffs assembled, and not many knew the names back then, but Scioscia always said that he assembled the best coaching staff possible. Remember, Scioscia took that job without any managerial experience, but he surrounded himself with a couple of guys who had managed a lot in the minor leagues or even in the big leagues, in Joe Madden, who was the interim manager of the Angels prior to Scioscia being named, and of course Ron Renicky, who had a ton of managerial experience in the minor leagues. And then you had Bud Black as the pitching coach, and all three of those guys would go on to manage clubs. Back to the mound. Weaver drops the baseball, and everybody's safe. Well, that was a miscue by the Angels pitcher.
Yeah, that's got to be an error right there. I mean, if he catches that ball cleanly, he's got at least one out. He's probably got an out at second base. He was trying to get the double play and ended up trying to rush everything and got nobody. I mean, that's right to him on one hop and not able to handle it, so the Brewers get a break with a normally sure-handed pitcher out there on the mound.
Well, that is a huge break. 2 on with 1 away. Weaver knew he had to hurry if he was going to second with Gomez running. It might have just rushed it too much to make the play. Didn't take the sure out. He was thinking about 2, which would have been tough against Chris Davis. So Butcher is having another chat with Weaver. Bullpen starts to get loose as well. And it's going to take at least 1 hitter, maybe 2, to get those hurlers ready. Michael Cone is the right-hander. Buddy Boscher's the lefty.
And left-hander probably getting prepared for the pitcher spot. Peralta third up.
Well, here's Scooter Gennett, who has one of the 3 hits tonight. 2 on, 1 away. Tying run at second, and Gennett out in front. Pickoff attempt, no throw by Weaver. Gomez was hardly leading off.
He's trying to keep him close. I don't think the Angels think he's going to steal third, but he might. He's trying to hold him close to the bag, maybe be a little bit more difficult to score on a hit.
And Gennett pops it up in the infield. 2 outs. Weaver just frustrates hitters to no end.
There have been a bunch of pop-ups, and that's a result of not being able to pick up the baseball real well. Kind of gets on you quickly. You're behind it. You get underneath, and you get the pop out. That's the 6th infield pop out in this game. Either a fair or foul ball.
And that excellent changeup. Well, one great thing about baseball, it gives you a chance at redemption, and for Martin Maldonado, he's got that chance quickly. His last at bat, he was at the plate with the bases loaded and 1 out. He got it to a 3-0 count, swung away and popped it up. So he doesn't have to sit on it too long, and here he is with another chance. 2 on, 2 out. In there for a strike. In there again. 0-2 on Maldonado. And now Weaver in the driver's seat. Brewers got a walk and then an error with one away. Now 2 gone, and Maldonado takes one off the plate. That didn't miss by much.
That's a pretty good 2-strike pitch. Well, 3-0 didn't work out well for Maldonado.
Let's try 0-2.
Let's try 0-2.
I like it. You just need to be the underdog.
Right.
Odds are stacked against him.
Shorten up that swing a little bit. Base hit will score Gomez.
And now it's 2-2. Only run of the game came in the 4th inning. Cole Calhoun, the Angels right fielder, went deep off Peralta. That's been it. Very well pitched game. Weaver's been able to wiggle off the hook a few times. Peralta, meanwhile, after that home run, has retired 8 straight. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 men on. And Maldonado strikes out. So the inning is over. Another changeup for Weaver, and he strands 2 more Brewers on the bases. To the 7th we go. Wisconsin is brought to you by the Wisconsin Lottery, reminding you to please play responsibly. And by Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. Always Miller time at Miller Park.
And for select Monday home games, not too many Mondays left on the home schedule. Fans can purchase terrace reserved seats for just $9. That's courtesy of Miller High Life. Visit brewers.com/highlight.
Now Willie Peralta back on the mound as we get ready for the 7th inning. And he's working on a 3-hitter. The only run was a homer by Calhoun, who will lead off in this 7th inning for the Angels. And who has 2 of the 3 hits for the Halos tonight. He brought up an interesting point between innings here. If Maldonado reaches last inning, does Renicky pinch hit for Peralta down a run? That would have been a tough call.
I guess you have to. I mean,
I would have loaded the bases.
You need a run, and Renicky trots up a left-hander, probably Caleb Gindel, and that's probably why you had the left-hander up in the bullpen. For the Angels, not sure that Scioscia would have gone to the pen, but it would have been a tough call. A decision that in the American League you don't have to worry about.
Calhoun, an infield single in the 2nd inning, glanced off the glove of Peralta, and then he went deep into the Loge level in the 4th inning. His 5th home run.
Yeah, first pitch fastball knocked it out of here. That's why Peralta started him with a slider in this at bat.
What was that, a changeup?
Looked like changeup.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was a
85.
Man.
Well, slider then change up. They hit the fastball in the second deck and right.
That was a very good pitch, and that's only going to make his fastball look that much faster.
That's why I saw Calhoun do a little walk around the plate. Got into his head a little bit.
That was an oh brother walk.
Now what?
See if Peralta can finish him off here. 1-0 Angels. 7th inning. Brewers will have 9-1-2 due up next inning. So Peralta knows his time is coming to an end here. His last inning. Roenicke would love to get him through this inning. Keep the Angels at 1. Then you'll most definitely see a pinch hitter. Full count. Back to the fastball. And he missed. And it's a walk. Boy, he had him set up perfectly, and Peralta let him get away.
Second walk of the night for Willie. He's been throwing a lot of strikes.
Calhoun has reached all 3 trips to the plate. Well, Peralta tonight with 6 strikeouts, and other than the home run, the only blemish on his line tonight, he's been outstanding.
He had 3 hits. 2 of them came in the second inning. He got out of that mess, retiring the last 2 hitters in that inning. And yeah, except for that fastball, that first pitch fastball to Calhoun, I mean, he's been outstanding.
Here's Mark Trumbo. Trumbo is 0 for 2 tonight. Willie struck him out in the second. And then he flew out to right. He was late on a fastball and flew out in the 4th. Peralta would love to get a ground ball here. Turn 2. Wipe out the leadoff walk. Yeah, Maldonado spotted something quickly, and he's on his way out.
And Trumbo reminds me a lot up there in the batter's box of Troy Gloss. Third baseman. Spent a lot of years with the Angels, and both of them with big power. The Angels could come up with some pretty good power hitters.
Yeah, Tim Salmon.
Yeah.
Go back to your era.
Wally Joyner.
Yeah, Brian Downing. He could lift and separate. I was a huge fan of Wally Joyner growing up. I loved his swing.
Yeah, Wally had a big home run season his rookie year, but was really never the same kind of a home run hitter. After that, still a terrific first baseman and a good hitter for average.
Remember Mo Vaughn with the Angels? He could hit some bombs. Peralta shakes off his buddy. And Trumbo steps out, so they'll start him over again. Three balls and a strike. This is a dangerous time right here for Peralta. His pitch count is in great shape, but figure another base runner and it could be his last.
All of a sudden going away from his fastball. That's been his pitch all night. Change ups and sliders now behind in the count to Trumbo, which is a tough spot to be in. He's already walked Calhoun.
Boy, then you always have that to go to.
Why go away from it, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
I think for Willie Peralta, it's probably time to take a page out of the Jim Henderson book.
Look at that. Fingers on top. He's been very consistent in his release point tonight.
Start spotting the fastball, and at that velocity, if you can command the fastball, then you can do some damage. Great location on 2 of his pitches, and that one down and in a little further, but he's got Trumbo thinking swing.
That starts at the knees. It looks pretty good until it gets to the plate. The beauty of the sinker.
Going back to it. Full count, runner at first. Brewers looking to turn 2, and that one's ripped into center field. A base hit. He went down and got that one. And now Peralta in trouble. The Angels threatening with 2 on and nobody out.
Yeah, 3 pitches in the same spot. This time Trumbo with a center on one. Still a good pitch. Went down and got it and lines it into center field. Not much you can do about that. Last thing you want to do is walk another one, throw him a strike, and he got the hit.
Well, that snaps an 0 for 11 run at the plate for Trumbo, and that's going to be the last hitter that Peralta faces. And now he cannot win this ball game as Roenicke takes the ball from him and heads into his bullpen. We'll take a break. Pitching change at Miller Park. Peralta exits down 1-0.
It's a 1-0 ball game here in the top of the 7th inning. Now on FoxSportsWisconsin.com, Paul Emick projects the Packers' 53-man roster. And can UMass pull off a historic upset over the Badgers, as college football for the Badgers will kick off tomorrow at Camp Randall Stadium. And you can check out the top tweets of the past week from Wisconsin area athletes. You can catch all those on FoxSportsWisconsin.com. B.A.?
All right, Telly, thanks. A pitching change here. Willie Peralta is out and dejected. He pitched a good ball game, but getting very little run support. Has not received a single run of support in 6 of his last 8 starts, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Rob Wooten now.
Yeah, 4 hits and 1 run so far. The runners on base are his responsibility. Talking about Willie, but Rob Wooten, normally Ron Roenicke's 7th inning pitcher. And Wooten's been very good. Last pitched on Tuesday against the Pirates. Earned his 3rd win of the season.
Well, he steps into a hornet's nest here with 2 on, nobody out. Hank Conger coming up, and a spot where Wooten needs strikeouts or double play balls at this point as he gets ahead of Conger.
Sinker, slider, splitter for Rob Wooten. Needs a ground ball to get a double play. You know, no team in the American League grounds into more double plays than the Angels. 124 of them.
And a bouncing ball foul. Now, we talked about Willie Peralta and the lack of run support lately. As a matter of fact, if you look at his total starts this year with 0 runs, he is the league leader in the major leagues. So he's the National League leader, the big league leader. 11 of his starts, this is updated now, with 0 runs of support.
Yeah.
11 of his starts.
Well, and the good news tomorrow, Williams is on that list.
Yeah, that's right.
He's tomorrow's starter.
Good call. I'm sure Jerome Williams doesn't feel that way, but I'm sure Marco Estrada appreciates it.
We should tell him.
There's a called strike 3. Wooten hits the back door, and down goes Conger. Well, that's a good way to start the run for Wooten.
And now you get the ground ball. Well, he's been outstanding since being called up. Pitching in some very important innings and coming in with some pretty tough situations right on the outside corner. And caught him looking.
So Rob Wooten with one gone, and Jimenez lines one to center field. The runner's held up and will be unable to score here. Cole Calhoun was.
That's actually good base running.
Yeah, he was headed back to the bag in case Segura made that play. So it's a base hit for Jimenez, and the bases are loaded now.
Yeah, he didn't come too far from catching this baseball, and Calhoun does exactly what he has to do. He goes back to second base. Didn't want to get doubled off, and because of that, not able to score. And Jimenez hit that one right on the nose. Wooten got one up.
Calhoun ends up at third. He started this inning with a walk, and now 2 hits in the inning. Bases loaded, 1 out for Grant Green, batting in the 8th spot, young second baseman. You always judge a reliever by the inherited runners that he has retired and faced. And for Rob Wooten, 11 runners inherited, and only 4 of them have scored. Pretty good numbers for Wooten, and he has emerged as the 7th inning reliever for the Brewers.
That's a pretty good barometer for a relief pitcher, a guy that comes in the middle of an inning, but sometimes can be deceiving. You come in, bases loaded, nobody out, you're going to give up maybe a couple of runs. In this situation, first and second, nobody out, and if Wooten's able to get out of this mess, that would be a pretty good job.
One gone, the 1-1 pitch, and a bouncing ball, fair. That is trouble. Just fair. This is going to bring in at least 2, and they're going to send Jimenez now. The throw overshoots Segura. 3-run score on a double by Grant Green, and the Angels have taken a 4-0 lead.
That's too bad. I mean, 2 of those runners, the responsibility of Willie Peralta. So he ends up going 6 innings, giving up 3 runs, as well as he pitched. A sinker from Wooten, and Green able to go down and get it, tuck it inside that third baseline, and clears the bases. 4-0 Angels. Just fair.
Well, that one hurts. All 3 runs score. Bases loaded, clearing double by Green. Pinch hitter coming up, Peter Burgess, hitting for Weaver, who is now in a stronger position to win this game. 6 shutout innings for Weaver. Still just 1 out. And a pop-up. Scooter Gennett out in the grass. He'll make the call and the catch in foul territory, and keeps the runner from advancing. So the 2nd out. And we go back to the top of the order now, and J.B. Shuck. So the book is closed on Peralta. 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, all earned.
That's too bad, isn't it? He pitched much better than that tonight. That's the way it goes, though. A walk and a base hit, he leaves, and they both come around to score. Tough break. Doesn't help matters when you're a young pitcher. You're trying to figure it out at this level, and 11 times you've been out there, you haven't had any runs. Puts extra emphasis on every pitch.
Wooten has been very good in that role, but Green just sneaks one inside the bag. He got his ground ball, but it was hit firmly, and he found the edge. It's a big hit for Green. He came into this game with just 3 RBIs. Got 3 with 1 swing of the bat. Right center, that's going to get down, and another run will score. And Shuck slips around first. In to score is Green, and it is 5-0 Angels. J.B. Shuck with a 2-out RBI single.
First time Wooten's really been hit around. Slider that stayed up pretty much right down the middle of the plate, and Shuck able to dump it into center field to score another run.
Wooten's given up 3 hits. Angels have 4 hits in the inning with a walk. J.B. Shuck coming around first base, almost wiped out. And lucky he was uninjured there. He was thinking about 2 out of the box. A little spin out. Shuck at first for Ibar, the 8th batter of the inning. To Segura, goes across to first for the out to end the inning, but big damage done. Grant Green, rookie second baseman, drives in 3 with a double. Shuck drives in the other. 5-0 Angels.
Right in at Miller Park, their first time here in Milwaukee since 2002, and on our AT&T Twitter poll tonight, we were asking fans to weigh in on their favorite moment from the Brewers and Angels series. No surprise, 70% went with that 1982 pennant win, but some other good ones. The 20-run game, July 8th, 1990, and Ben Sheets, an outstanding 1-hit, 9-inning shutout performance. The Brewers would go on to win that one in 17 innings. So there have been some good moments, and hopefully over the next 2 days there will be more. BA?
Yeah, always remember the pennant winners for sure. Some changes here. Peter Burgess will stay and play center field. That moves Trout over to left field. And Mike Scioscia keeping Burgess in the game to tighten up his defense. The new pitcher rock is Michael Cone. 51st appearance of the year, and he'll take over for Weaver with a 5-0 lead now.
Has not allowed a hit in his last 4 appearances. That covers 3 2/3 innings. Talking about inherited runners, he's stranded 80% of runners that he has inherited when he's come into the ball game. 51st appearance for Cone tonight.
Caleb Gendel will pinch hit for Rob Wooten. Well, this was a tight one until the 7th. The Brewers still have time to come back, but down 5-0. Angels are pretty good at the end of their games with De La Rosa now setting up and Frieri doing the closing. Brewers would like to put it into a spot where Scioscia has to use those pitchers. Ouch. Wow. That was a direct hit on Hank Conger.
Yeah, dropped straight down. That's when you know they're going to hurt. Not a glancing blow. These are the ones that can rattle your cage. Right on the chin and go straight down. And those hurt.
Anytime you see that, it's just take a look at the catcher's mouth. Is it open or closed? Goodness. I mean, that's got a chance to do some damage to the jaw. Those masks, though, those are the masks that are much more equipped to handle those direct hits as opposed to the hockey style mask that a lot of catchers wear, like Maldonado.
Well, with the hockey style mask, they're a little bit more tapered and you might not get that direct hit, but you're right, there's not as much padding in those others.
Oh, and 2 to Gendel. And he got him. Cone strikes him out to start the 7th inning. Weaver finished with 3 strikeouts. Cone picks up his first one, gone for the top of the order, Nori Aoki coming up. Check out Aoki at the plate tonight, courtesy of Wendy's. Had a single in the 3rd inning. Brewers have just 3 hits tonight. All singles. But they had their chances against Weaver. Stranded 8. There's a line drive to left and perfectly placed. Mike Trout for the out. It's about where Aoki's base hit came in the 3rd inning.
And Trout just moved over to left field, realized that Aoki just wants to slap it out there and was positioned perfectly for the out.
Here is Segura now with 2 away. Brewers are coming off back-to-back series wins on the road. They took 2 out of 3 from the Reds. Did the same against the Pirates. Trying to carry that over at Miller Park, but ran into Jared Weaver tonight. Had their base runners, but Weaver just too much stuff and got out of a number of jams.
There's a reason why the guy was 20-5 last year. He knows how to pitch, and you know, when the situation got very difficult, he rose to the occasion.
Yeah, it seems like when the moment got at its most tense, he started to go the other way. He didn't power up. He went a lot to his changeup, his breaking stuff.
Got very lucky though with the bases loaded in the 3-0 count. He threw one right down the middle of the Martin Maldonado, and he popped it up. Biggest point in the game for Milwaukee, certainly.
Yeah, that was back in the 4th. Well, the Pirates beat the Cardinals tonight, 5-0. Pittsburgh in a first-place tie. John Axford did not pitch tonight, although he was active for St. Louis. Colorado leading the Reds 6-3. That game's going into the 6th inning now, and the Reds are behind. Bronson Arroyo getting roughed up tonight. Some good races in the American League East. Key series in New York this weekend. The Yankees beat the Orioles tonight. CC Sabathia won. And how about Mariano Rivera? 39th save of the year. 39 saves, and he's hanging them up at the end of the season.
Go out on top. Why not, right?
Bouncing ball. That is foul. Just missed the bag. Would have been extra bases for Segura. CC Sabathia has not pitched all that well lately either. He gave up 5 earned runs tonight in 5 2/3, but the Yankees gave him enough offense. Alfonso Soriano homered again. Man, he has been on fire as a Yankee. It's been a nice trade for them.
They're doing pretty well with the Cubs too last couple of years.
Bouncing ball up the middle, and it's off the glove of Grant Green, and Segura is going to reach on a base hit. A 2-out single for the former Angel.
Now, does that go down as an infield hit? I don't think so. It trickled into the outfield, right? And Green going up the middle. He knocks it down, but not able to keep it in his glove. I think that's an infield hit.
Yeah, I've never thought about that.
Does that count? I'm just asking.
I totally get it.
What do you think?
And I think it would probably not go as an infield hit.
Maybe not, right?
I don't know. It's just a guess.
Ended up in the outfield.
Yeah. Sometimes infielders play in the outfield, like Scooter Gennett. Here's Lucroy now. We'll have to wait on the official scoring of Tim O'Driscoll.
Now, in my scorebook, I put hit and H, and I put down where it went. You know, left field, 7. That is an H4 in my scorebook. So when I look back many years down the road,
right.
That's going to be a hit to the second baseman.
Yeah.
So in my scorebook, that's an infield hit.
Like when that page of your scorebook is in the Smithsonian, people are going to realize, based on the Bill Schroeder scoring system, that is.
Yeah, that's me, color coded. Beautiful scorebook.
It is a beautiful scorebook.
I will say that I have the prettiest scorebook in the big leagues,
and the most humility in the big leagues concerning the scorebook.
There's no question about the fact that this is the best done scorebook in all of baseball.
Nice. That was very Donald Trump-like.
As opposed to yours?
Well, mine's a little bit different. I keep a lot of. For example, I've got that scored as an infield hit. I put an INF.
That's a lazy man scorebook.
No, it's not. No, this is a flexible scorebook.
It's so flexible it ends up in the garbage after the game,
That's right? That's right.
I get you.
All my other stuff is elsewhere. Much more modern, much more flexible, pliable. But that's part of your ritual. You get in, you fill out the scorebook, and you make numerous errors every day and have to go to the whiteout and bang the desk a few times. That's just all part of getting ready for a game.
I've only had one whiteout area on this scorebook. I put Maldonado's walk in the 3rd inning in the 2nd inning. I had to white it out and put it in the 3rd inning.
That is an imperfect scorebook.
So I had a pretty good day as far as whiteout goes.
Segura takes off. Lucroy takes a ball. The throw to second is late. And Segura with steal number 39 for the year.
You better make sure you make it, down by 5. And he does. Another visit to the mound. Seems like every time the Brewers get a man at second base, Butcher goes out and has a chat. Yeah, throw late would have been a stolen base anyway had he been able to catch it at second base.
Segura with 39, one away from 40. And his next steal, he'd be the first Brewer since Scott Pasednik stole 70 back in 2004. It's been a long time since the Brewers have had a base stealer like Segura. With these kind of numbers, you start getting into the 40s. Paul Molitor did it 4 times. He stole at least 40 bases. Pasednik did it twice, and then you got Darrell Hamilton, Pat Listash, and Tommy Harper. Those are the 5 players who have at least 40 steals as a Brewer. Been done 9 different times by those 5 players. Segura about ready to add his name to the list. And that skips away from Conger, and both runners will advance. Segura and Lucroy now in scoring position, and this will be big for the Brewers to try to get a quick strike here with 2 outs.
We just got an update from Mike Vassallo saying that it is not an infield hit for Segura. And that's a ball you got to block in the big leagues. Conger not able to handle it, so Segura gets to third base.
And by the way, that was not a stolen base for Segura. That was ball 4, which is why Lucroy went to first base. But you get the idea.
That's what we get for talking about scorebooks
and stolen base records, which we've been dying to get to tonight. Ramirez in a 2-0 count, and a couple of homers in Pittsburgh. Long ball here would go a long way to get the Brewers right back in it. All of this with 2 outs. So how did you change your scorebook entry on Segura?
I whited out the stolen base.
No, I mean the hit. Did you still put a 4 by it?
Yeah.
Powerball home run count. Aramis Ramirez with his 9th yesterday opposite field home run against Garrett Cole. 3-0. And there's a strike.
Doesn't matter what they call it. It's what I think it is.
Here's ball 4. Back-to-back walks, and now the bases are loaded.
Activity out in that Angels bullpen. You wonder if Mike Scioscia is going to stick with Cole. With Cone having a tough time getting the final out. 2 outs, nobody on. An infield hit and 2 walks.
Not an infield hit and 2 walks and no stolen base. And here is Carlos Gomez. Base is full of Brewers. And the club leader in homers, Gomez, at the plate. Segura, Lucroy, and Ramirez aboard. Ooh, had a good cut and a good pitch to hit. He fouls it straight back. Michael Cone in a jam here with 2 away. Ball and a strike. Well, this turns into a pivotal pitch in the at bat. Big difference going 2-1 or 1-2 if the ball's not put in play. And a new set of signs. 5-0 Angels. Brewers with 2 away. Bases full. And it's in the dirt. Good block by Conger. 2 balls and a strike. Tried a breaking ball that time, or an off-speed pitch. Gomez didn't chase.
And now Gomez is in the driver's seat. If that pitch was a strike, then Cone would have been in the driver's seat at 1-2. So you figure Gomez to get a good pitch to hit right here.
Count in his favor, 2-1. Gomez right to Grant Green to end the inning. So the Brewers again strand the bases loaded. That's twice tonight. Still 5-0. We head to the 8th inning.
Head to the 8th inning. And let's check out our Toyota game summary. Jared Weaver was outstanding tonight. He had no runs on 3 hits for Weaver. 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. Grant Green with a big double with the bases loaded. He played at 3. And Cole Calhoun with the only long ball of the night. That gave Weaver and the Angels a 1-0 lead. That was back in the 4th inning.
And a big 4-run 7th as Tyler Thornburg will take over. Thornburg in a tune-up here as he is ready to go back into the starting rotation. He will pitch Monday against the Pirates. He'll start that game Monday.
There you go. 14th appearance for Thornburg. Very good as a starter. Allowed only 1 run in 18 innings as a starting pitcher. So that's one of the reasons why Roenicke and Rick Kranitz want him back in the starting rotation. Tom Gorzolani for the time being is back in the bullpen.
Well, Mike Trout leading off here in the 8th inning. He's 0 for 2 with a walk tonight. Trout, Calhoun, and Trumbo due up for the Angels. Tyler Thornburg, South Carolina native. Got a taste of the big leagues last year and has been up here about half the season this season. He had a rough go of it in AAA, but he's been very good in the big leagues. Not always the case when you advance a level.
Man, not throwing as hard as he was last year. He was throwing in 86 or 96, 97 miles an hour.
Trout is aboard with an infield hit.
And more concerned with location, and his changeup and his curveball have been pretty good while he's been in the major leagues. So a much different pitcher this year than last.
56.
Still is amazing that Tyler Thornburg down in the minor leagues did not win. 0-9 with his stuff. Go figure.
Well, here is Cole Calhoun, who's having a great night at the plate. Scioscia put him in the cleanup spot tonight, and he's delivered with 2 hits and a walk. He hit a home run in the 4th that started the scoring tonight, and had that leadoff walk in the 7th against Peralta. Started the rally, the 4-run rally last inning. Eighth inning from Miller Park, and Thornburg trying to get this one to the bottom half. Still 5-0. Give his offense a chance. Just hoping that the Brewers can continue to get base runners that they can cash in once before the night ends, as Ramirez makes the catch for the first out. First time Calhoun has been retired tonight.
And Thornburg with a fastball at 92 miles an hour up in the strike zone. Got the pop up. 5 miles an hour different than what he was throwing in the major leagues last year. But more effective.
More command. Mark Trumbo with 1 away. He had a single last inning. That was the last batter that Peralta faced. It's a pretty good piece of hitting too. Trumbo went down and ripped a sinker back up the middle. He had just missed one prior to that, so he made the quick adjustment as good hitters do, and he smoked one up the middle to end the night of Peralta, and both of those runners would come in to score. Peralta was 6 innings and 3 earned runs tonight. Strike 2 from Thornburg. Got him. Thornburg strikes him out. Goes up the ladder with a fastball, and Trumbo is gone, his 2nd K of the night, and the first for Thornburg in this 8th inning.
And both of the outs coming on high fastballs at 92 miles an hour. There it is. Up above the belt. Trumbo not able to get to it. And Thornburg with a strikeout. You don't have to throw 97 miles an hour to get strikeouts up in the zone if you can throw the other stuff for strikes.
Well, Mike Scioscia has to feel good about the way his offense is churning along right now without Josh Hamilton, who was relegated to DH duties in St. Pete against the Rays, and not available to play tonight, and not to play in the field anyway. That Thornburg drops a beautiful curveball in there for a strike.
That's the pitch you're talking about right there. So the off speed for strikes, 92, 93 up in the zone will get it done. Bingo.
0-1 to Conger. 2 outs in the inning.
Sometimes the big boys aren't going to be able to get it done. A lot of thump is out of this lineup. Pujols and Hamilton. Guys on the disabled list not being able to participate. Got to come from somebody else.
One and two the count. Looking ahead to the bottom of the 8th, Chris Davis, Scooter Gennett, and Martin Maldonado. If anybody gets on, Thornburg's spot would come up. One ball, 2 strikes. A check on Trout, who has been there to lead off this inning, or since the lead of the inning with the infield hit. Conger 1 out of 3 tonight. He singled in the 2nd inning. Has a strikeout on his card tonight. Another 1-2 offering from Thornburg. And that one misses.
A good changeup. He figured that Conger wasn't going to swing at it. And the only chance that Thornburg had was to get the called strike just a bit low. That's a good pitch.
It looks like he has a good feel for them all here in this inning. See what he goes to. 2 balls, 2 strikes. In the air to center field. Back is Gomez with room. And the side is retired. A scoreless inning for Tyler Thornburg. Brewers are coming up. They're running out of outs. We head to the bottom of the 8th.
One of the subjects, Jared Weaver, his stat line, no runs, just 3 hits, but Milwaukee had a lot of opportunities, Davey. Runners in scoring position alone, they left 10 on.
Yeah, that's right. And, and they had some opportunities in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th innings that just didn't materialize, couldn't do the little things to try to score runs. And for a pitcher who's pitched pretty well, Peralta in this ball game, needed to get some run support, and they just haven't been able to do it for him.
Yeah, Willie Peralta, again, no run support now in his 11th start alone since May 12th. Also coming up after the ballgame on Brewers Live postgame, our instructional, and Augie is going to take a tour of the bullpen with bullpen catcher Marcus Hanel. What really goes on out there, and what time do things kick in gear? We'll all find out on the instructional. Plus, we'll hear from Ron Reineke after the ballgame, Brian.
All right, Craig and Davey, thanks. You see Corey Rasmus, next man out of the Mike Scioscia bullpen, as we head to the bottom of the 8th inning in a 5-0 Angels lead. Chris Davis will lead off. Just the 4th appearance for Rasmus in the big leagues this year. He got a little big league time with the Braves as well. He was traded at the trade deadline. Atlanta picking up Scott Downs, and Rasmus coming to the West Coast from Atlanta.
It came up on August 23rd, the 25th different pitcher used by the Angels this year. So they have had issues, health-wise, guys not getting the job done. Earned run average near the bottom in the American League, which is a big surprise. It's been a challenge for Mike Scioscia this year to have a consistent pitching staff. It's been very difficult.
Davis ahead 2-1 now. Chris looking for his first hit of the night. He is 0 for 2, actually 0 for 3. There was an error back in the 6th inning. Error charged to Jared Weaver. Brewers have not been able to capitalize tonight. Number of chances.
They've left 11 on base.
Twice they've left the bases loaded.
It's only been 2 innings where the Brewers did not get a man on.
Corey Rasmus, the younger brother of Colby Rasmus, the Blue Jays center fielder, former Cardinal. And Davis strikes out. Conger secures it at first. Good piece of catching there by Conger, and a strikeout to start the 9th. And missed opportunities, the story of the night for the Brewers offensively. This was the big one. That was a 3-0 count with 1 out and the bases loaded. Maldonado popped out. Weaver would get out of that inning, and then Scooter Gennett, he popped out with 2 on and 1 out. That was in the 6th inning. And then Carlos Gomez came up with the bases loaded in the 7th, and a little soft liner caught by Green to end the inning.
And sometimes they drop, sometimes they don't.
Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield.
Yeah.
Brewers have been the bug tonight.
And particularly Willie Peralta, he deserves a much better fate. He threw the baseball extremely well, but you look at his line, 3 runs in 6 innings, very average, but he was better than that.
Scooter Gennett to left field, where Trout is waiting. And 2 gone. Well, based on our ceremonial first pitch tonight by Jermichael Finley, we thought things might be difficult for the Brewers. Packers receiver really set the tone for the night. We put that on him.
Yeah, let's blame him tonight.
I'm sure he doesn't mind. He gets blamed for a lot of stuff.
All right.
Maldonado pops it up. It's been a night of pop-ups for the Brewers, and a couple to end the 8th inning. We're headed to the 9th. The Angels are coming up. It is 5-0. First inning, it's brought to you by Marshfield Clinic. Mike Trout, one of the great base stealers in the game, and Martin Maldonado gunned him down to end the first inning. This was a really tight game, very well pitched, good ball game going into the 7th inning. It was 1-0 Angels, and then Angels scored 4 runs in the 7th, and that's where we are right now as we head to the 9th. It is 5-0. Bert Badenhop will try to finish it off for the Brewers tonight.
And Badenhop in game number 58. A .375 earned run average and a 2-3 record out of Ron Roenicke's bullpen. Badenhop last pitched on Wednesday against the Pirates. Allowed a 3-run home run to Marlon Byrd. 3 runs in a third of an inning. John Axford traded last night to the Cardinals, and to make room for, I should say, to replace him in the bullpen, Alfredo Figueroa recalled from AAA.
So it'll be Badenhop here in the 9th, and Luis Jimenez will lead off for the Angels. By the way, we were talking earlier about John Axford and the fact that he was flying to Pittsburgh tonight and on the active roster. Well, actually, they found out after the game, Jennifer Langosh reporting that Axford never made it to Pittsburgh, had flight delays, and they are hoping to get him to Pittsburgh by the end of the night. So he was not, in fact, in St. Louis and available for Mike Matheny. He was supposed to be available, but he never made it. And he was supposed to arrive just before first pitch.
Kind of crazy, right? He flew from Pittsburgh with the Brewers, came back to Milwaukee, and had a tough time getting back to Pittsburgh.
He was given the option to stay in Pittsburgh, but he wanted to get home after a long road trip, maybe repack his bags. And he is going to be on a road trip. Check this out, to Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. He just had a road trip to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh.
Right. How can you ever get enough of Pittsburgh and Cincinnati? Actually, I like those two towns.
Well, I think that's probably the reason why he wanted to come home, knowing that the Cardinals are just starting a road trip and
freshen up the suitcase a bit.
They got to have some new clothes or some fresh clothes. Of course, we'll see Axford a couple of times. See him in St. Louis.
Next road trip.
Yep, after the Cubs series, and then the Cardinals will come here on the final homestand of the year. Axford will be missed. He was a great guy, great character, handled himself very well, and
stand-up guy.
He was our go-to guy on Twitter Tuesday. And of all the things that he did, and he was so huge in 2011, the division-winning year, finished 4th in Major League history for consecutive saves, 49, 4th all time during that stretch. Started in 2010 all the way through 2011. There's a strikeout. Badenhop punches out Jimenez. A reminder that this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Brewers and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent of the Brewers.
Yeah, the thing about Axford, there wasn't a whole lot of middle ground. He was either real good for a long stretch or real bad for a stretch.
That is true, and he was in the middle of a bad stretch, although he just had a scoreless inning the other day. Cardinals have always liked him, and Brewers are going to get a player to be named later. It kind of clears the books of Axford as far as arbitration goes, and it was likely that the Brewers were not going to tender him a contract at the end of the year. So once you make that decision, then a trade is worked out, and we haven't heard any news about who the returning player will be, but I'm sure that'll be news when it happens. in the air to right. Grant Green to Aoki for the second out of the inning.
Ordinarily in situations like that, the deal is consummated, and the Brewers and the Cardinals maybe have 2, 3 guys that they're talking about, and whichever of the 3, for an example, that many, whichever of the 3 the Cardinals elect to part with, the Brewers are going to be okay with that. So it's not like the Cardinals are just going to start picking guys out of the hat and then sending them to Milwaukee. It's been predetermined. At least that's normally the way that works. Be interesting to see who it's going to be.
Well, Peter Burgess batting for the second time. Entered the game as a pinch hitter in the 7th. And that one's in the air to center. Gomez makes the catch. 1-2-3 inning for Bert Batenhop. To the bottom of the 9th. Last call for the Crew. They need 5. Might as well get 6.
Angels, and fans come out to Miller Park as the Brewers host the Cincinnati Reds Friday, September 13th through Sunday the 15th. For tickets, call 414-902-4000 or visit brewers.com.
We're still having some fun here at Miller Park. A crowd of over 32,000. Many have left. And Rasmus back on the mound, ready to start his second inning. But many have stayed as well. They're having a good time tonight. I saw where Johnny Hellwig made his final start for the Nashville Sounds tonight, and went 6 innings, just 2 earned runs. He got the win. And Hellwig finishes the season 12-5, the PCL pitcher of the year. So Hellwig made his last start in AAA, and he's on his way to the big leagues, and we'll see how he fits in for the Brewers in the rotation moving forward. I'm not sure when he's coming to Milwaukee. I'm assuming he'll be here on Sunday and on the active roster. Juan Francisco is going to pinch hit to start this inning.
Well, won't be able to pitch for a while anyway.
Right. Well, congratulations to him. That's a great year. We'll try to catch up with him when he does get here, and to have the ability to go back to AAA after struggling in the big leagues and just dominate that league. That says a lot about his character, his competitiveness.
Didn't lose any confidence, that's for sure. That's what you like to see. That's a good sign.
I would imagine Hellwig would like to get here as soon as he can, just not only just to be in the big leagues, but also to reconnect with some of his old teammates in the Angels system that are here right now. And when he arrives, that'll mean 2/3 of the trade arriving to the big leagues. Ariel Pena is the other. He had a full season in AA this year as a starting pitcher. pretty decent numbers. An ERA under 4. Pitching for Huntsville. Some command troubles, but it's kind of what you get with hard throwers.
Saw him in spring training. He's got a good arm.
Francisco into right. Does it have a chance? Down in the corner in a sliding play, Calhoun, and that ball is a fair ball and a live ball. And Francisco is into second with a double.
They got that one down on the end of the bat, and Francisco just inside that right field line. Calhoun made a pretty good effort at it. A sliding attempt out there in the corner and not able to hold on. Went a long way for this baseball. Came close. Had it in the glove for a second. And Francisco in there with a leadoff double.
And Hickox with the call. Textbook call from the umpire. Fair or foul first, and then, or a safer out first, and then fair or foul.
Depends on what textbook you're looking at.
He's all I had to go on there. That corner is hidden from our view, so that's a play-by-play announcer's best friend right there.
Right.
Ed Hickox. Way to go, Ed. You and me. Aoki takes a ball. I love umpires that are demonstrative with their calls, just like this. That's how you do it.
And the key is, and you talk to Bruce Fleming, learn this from Bruce, don't be running down the corner. You stop, you get down there as far as you can, you stop, and you get a good look at it. And that's what he did.
And that always served two purposes for Bruce. First, that's how you do it and the way you're supposed to do it, and you don't have to run. So that's a win-win right there.
You know, Bruce is you're gonna hear about that. That's why I've been silent.
Oh, Bruce. I can't wait to hear from Bruce. He had the big the umpire seminar up in the Northeast. Big recruiting effort.
Some young prospective umpires.
Yeah, I like that. I want to hear all about it. Norrie has a hit tonight. He's 1 for 4. Lined out his last time up. Never know. Brewers trying to get something rolling here in the ninth. Get some base runners on. There's that patch, Rock. That is for the late Louis Yoakum that the Angels are wearing. And there's Aoki into left field. Trout makes the play. That is the first out.
Dr. Yoakum passing away this year, and longtime orthopedic surgeon for the Angels and other players.
See our Miller Lite What's on Tap, tomorrow's starters. Now, Yoakum was the man who saved many careers with the Tommy John procedure, perfected that procedure, and one of the all-time greats, and for my money should be recognized in the Hall of Fame. You think about how many careers he saved.
Yeah.
How impactful he was on the game of baseball with that surgery.
Kind of an everyday guy, too. I remember when I was with the Angels, and you know, he'd come out, lean on the batting cage, and just kind of chat with the guys about baseball. And he did a procedure on my elbow when I was with the Angels, arthroscopic surgery. Yeah, he'll be missed. He was a good guy and a very good doctor. Like 35 years as the Angels orthopedic surgeon.
And nearly 40 years with the Angels, but saw and treated, operated on a number of players from other organizations. Matter of fact, when the Angels played the Mariners, Felix Hernandez, pitching for the Mariners that day, he actually wore the patch, requested that he get the patch to honor and recognize Louis Yoakum.
Man, this year is his 36th season with the Angels.
A pioneer in the medical industry as far as sports go.
Yeah, he was in the same clinic as Frank Jobe, the guy that started it all. The Tommy John procedure.
Tommy John was the first player to have it.
Oh, is
And
that
so
why they named it that?
after him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Tommy
That's good.
John
Yeah.
pitched 26 years in the big leagues. 13 after. You thought that was just a thing, right? You didn't know that was a pitcher. Just a surgery. I used to run into Tommy John all the time. He'd say, yeah, hi, I'm Tommy John, the person, not the surgery. But he's very proud about that surgery because that was extremely risky. Can you imagine taking a ligament from a cadaver or somewhere else in your body and reattaching it to your elbow, and you're going to go back out and pitch again?
Right. It's common now.
Yeah. Mike Maddox had the great line. He said, there are two kinds of pitchers. Pitchers that have had Tommy John surgery and pitchers that are going to have Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
If you stay around long enough. Matt Harvey with the Mets is dealing with that decision right now. I think the success rate for that surgery is up over 90%.
It's so successful that you know, some kids are actually thinking about doing it before they get hurt. I don't know about that. I don't like it. I mean, the preemptive strike, and that's not a good idea.
Or having it just too soon and not building up the muscles
Right.
that protect that ligament and not.
That's a last resort,
and,
getting cut on.
And mechanics and
That is
all of that.
That is a major, major decision for a kid.
Fly ball right field and in the seats. Count remains at 3-2. Long battle here for Segura. He's looking for his second hit of the night. He's 1 for 4. And a called strike 3. Down he goes. Segura strikes out.
Yeah, that's been a strike all night. That low fastball right at the edge of the knees, and Segura caught looking. Number 9, and catches the bottom of the zone.
Lucroy, the last hope for the Brewers. Trying to hit that 5-run homer with a man on. No, that's not possible. A strike. You saw the starters tomorrow. Marco Estrada will hope to carry on after a gem against the Cincinnati Reds. 7 innings, 1 hit for Estrada against the Reds.
Best changeup of the year for Marco in that last start.
You got Estrada and Loesch to finish this series. 3 against the Angels, and then the Pirates come to town Monday. Second to last homestand of the year. Hard to believe. Brewers' next road trip will be to Chicago for 3 and then St. Louis. So you can catch the Brewers on the road. Jump on that train, the Hiawatha line. That's what we're doing. Going to Chicago. Roller to short. Ibar. And safe. Lucroy beats it out. Sniffing a base hit, and he's rewarded that away.
Yeah.
Good hustle by Lucroy. An infield hit.
Yeah, right off the end of the bat on a slider, and Lucroy getting down that line in real good shape. Seems like he's a lot faster as a first baseman than a catcher.
I agree with you. Legs aren't so heavy.
Right. Ibar playing deep out there at short. Coming in hard, and Lucroy able to beat it at first base. Good hustle by Lucroy.
Yeah, good call.
Bang, bang, he gets the call.
It's another reason I like Ed Hickox. Calls it as he sees it, even at a 5-0 game and 2 outs. And now the Brewers still at it. And still alive as Ramirez skies to right, and that should do it. The Angels shut out the Brewers tonight. 5-0. Jared Weaver to 9-7. And Mike Scioscia beats his old bud, Ron Roenicke, tonight. 5-0 to final. 13 runners left on base for the Brewers tonight. We send it out to Craig. It's time for Brewers Live.
All right, Brian, thanks very much. Brewers Live is on the way. We're going to hear from Ron Roenicke. Get inside the clubhouse as per usual, plus our on-field instructional. Going to take you through that Brewer bullpen, so stick around. Brewers Live on Fox Sports Wisconsin is on the way.